Geek'd, what's poppin'? It's Adonis, and in celebration of the live action adaptation of the Webtoon Sweet Home coming to Netflix, if you don't know what Netflix is, you might want to get out from under the rock that you've been living under. Webtoon reached out to your boy and said, hey, you know what? Even though you want to watch this series, you might want to read the Webtoon as well. I'm super excited about talking about this because I've read roughly around 120 chapters. I think there's 140 chapters, and I've actually watched all of Sweet Home on Netflix, and there's a lot to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. Now, right off the top, for those that have watched the Netflix series and are starting to read the actual Sweet Home Webtoon, keep in mind when you're reading it, a lot of times people have to adapt what is on the paper to actual video, anime, movies, TV shows differently to make it make more sense in that medium. And for those that haven't watched it on Netflix yet, you're at a great spot because you can really take in the story for what the original author intended of, and then you can watch the adaptation of the series on Netflix. So cool either way. But the Webtoon focuses around a character called Hyun. I think it's Hyun. I don't speak Korean, so we're gonna say Hyun for right now. And this character has been struggling with depression, loneliness. There is a tragic event that happens that essentially leaves him fending for himself in a post-curse world. Interesting. Now, without spoiling anything, we're talking about curses that for whatever reason start to mutate human beings into monsters. Now, that sounds crazy, but I promise you, in the story, in the structure of the story, it's actually really dope. Now, I usually don't read like horror or thriller type of stuff, but this really has me interested in reading more like this. It's actually so visceral. I love the artwork. The artwork is actually really dope. And then the characters, there's something about it that makes it feel like it almost has a Walking Dead vibe to it. And what I mean by that is you have the monsters you have to worry about, but you also have the humans in the world that you also have to worry about. And it almost shows what happens when there's no government, when there's no structure, when there's no laws, what humans are going to want to do to try to survive for themselves or their family members. So it's really awesome. But the primary focus of the story of what triggers the monster or what triggers people to change into monsters is so awesome. And I don't want to spoil what that is. Just know it is some deep-rooted stuff. It's actually really awesome. And it's so exciting to read something that touches on things like this. So yeah, A+ for the concept. I think the concept is incredible. Now, seeing Hyun's character progression in the Webtoon is actually so much fun. Not the sense of fun being him going through tragic things, but just seeing him evolve right before your eyes, seeing from the first panel through to the last one that I read, which I think was like a chapter 120 or something like that. Really amazing. You just get so attached, and the people that are involved in, you know, the world that he's in and around him in close proximity, you get attached to certain characters. Nobody's really safe in this, which is really awesome. And they take some of those ideas into the Netflix series as well. Now, while the Netflix series takes certain liberties and adapts certain characters' personalities to other characters to make a more communal relationships between certain people, it actually makes sense for the Netflix series for a live action storytelling. It actually makes more sense in that space because the webcomic focus specifically around Hyun. Like, he's the main character all the time in this story. But on the Netflix side, you have multiple people that it's focusing on. So there's like multiple story threads going on. So you kind of get a cool two type of story with the same story. It's really hard to explain, but if you watch it and read it, you'll understand what I mean. Both are equally enjoyable. Now, unlike the Netflix series, in the webcomic, you don't have to really worry about, you know, budget in terms of like CG and stuff like that, because these are monsters, and CG monsters, you know, depending on the budget, could look really trash. You know what I'm talking about. Justice League. Bruh. But on a webcomic, you don't have to really worry about that. So the monster designs are so unique, like they're so interesting, and they're feeding off of a particular thing in that person that makes them look the way that they look. So each monster you're running into has a unique purpose. It's so brilliant. I actually really enjoy the concept of the monsters in the story. And to be honest, I'm not sure if it's because I didn't know if I was going to be interested in horror types of webtoons. I haven't really read a lot of that, but still, the story to me was so interesting. I just kept wanting to read. which is awesome. And that's always a good feeling because I technically don't like reading stuff because I end up falling asleep. So for me, to be in tuned and wanting to go to the next, it was good. It was like binge watching a TV show that you're really into. I just kept wanting to read it. And speaking of the read, make sure you guys check out the Webtoon app because that's the best way to consume this stuff. Like, I've said this before when it comes to, Tower of God. We do Tower of God reads as well. This is the best app to do stuff like this, especially on the phones or an iPad. And the way that it's set up, it's vertical swiping, which is awesome. You don't have to change the landscape or anything like that. But I think the biggest thing for me is you can have your things that you have bookmarked as far as your subscriptions for certain webtoons. And depending on what device you pick up, you can start where you left off. Like, it's just, I really love the interface. So just something that I just want to make sure you guys do check out the Webtoon app for it. I promise you, it's probably the best way I've actually read anything on a device. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just the colors or if it's the interface itself. It's super clean. It's very direct, straightforward. I like it a lot. So if you haven't gotten the app, do yourself a favor, get the app, get on board. You need to read Sweet Home. I'm not trying to gas it. It's actually really good. Now, my final verdict for what I've read so far, I haven't finished it. I'm about maybe 20 chapters away on the Webtoon app. But what I've read so far, I'm giving this an A. It is solid. Like, I really, really enjoy the series. I honestly hope that they do an anime out of this, but reading it, I think it's an A for me, for real. Like, if I'm ranking 1 out of 10, I'm putting that like an 8 for sure. I know people are like, oh, well, 8 is like a B. I'm not talking about grades in school, guys. I'm not talking about grades in school. What I'm saying is, this is solid. It's super solid. It's extremely enjoyable. The characters are interesting. There's a variety of different personalities in there, which is awesome. And Hyun is the main character. For whatever reason, I just vibe with this character a lot. Very dynamic, and again, that story progression for him is it's awesome. It feels really good. So let me know if you guys have read Sweet Home. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments down below. And if you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you guys download the Webtoon app, get in there, get into Sweet Home, because I'm telling you right now, you're missing out. It's a really dope series, so do yourself a favor. Again, one more time, shout out to Webtoon for hooking me up to read, informing me about the live action series and the Webtoon, because man, it's super fire. But other than that, guys, I will catch you guys in the next one. Till then, stay geeked.